What if a single event could ignite a global inferno? Welcome to September 1st, 1939. In the late 1930s, Europe was a continent on the brink. Nations were tangled in a web of alliances and enmities, a precarious balance maintained since the end of the First World War. But beneath this veneer of stability, tensions simmered, fueled by economic distress and political upheaval. Enter Adolf Hitler, a figure whose ambitions would catalyze one of the darkest chapters in history. Under his leadership, Nazi Germany adopted a foreign policy marked by aggression and the ominous rhetoric of Lebensraum, or living space. Hitler's vision for Germany's expansion was uncompromising, and it was this vision that set the stage for conflict. On that fateful day in September, German forces crossed into Poland, unprovoked and determined. This brazen invasion shattered any remaining hopes for peace in Europe. In response, Great Britain and France, bound by treaties and a commitment to uphold European stability, declared war on Germany. With Poland invaded, the world braced for a conflict that would reshape our global landscape. In a world divided, who would stand against the Axis powers? As tensions escalated globally, three nations solidified their dark ambitions under the Axis banner: Germany, Italy, and Japan. Germany, under the iron fist of Adolf Hitler, sought expansive territorial gains and ideological supremacy. Italy, led by Benito Mussolini, aimed to restore the grandeur of ancient Rome. Meanwhile, Japan, driven by imperial aspirations, eyed vast territories across Asia and the Pacific. In response, a formidable alliance emerged to counteract the Axis threat. The United States, initially hesitant, was propelled into action by the infamous attack on Pearl Harbor in 1941. The Soviet Union, reeling from a brutal invasion by Germany, joined the Allies, driven by a desperate need for survival and revenge. Great Britain, standing alone after the fall of France, became the bedrock of resistance against the Axis in Europe. And not to be overlooked, China, engaged in a grueling conflict with Japan, became an essential Eastern ally. As alliances formed, the world split into two dominant blocs, setting the stage for widespread conflict. From Stalingrad to Normandy, the battles of World War II were colossal. These confrontations were not just displays of military might, but turning points that shifted the tide of the entire war. Let's delve into the Battle of Stalingrad first. It was a brutal clash between Nazi Germany and the Soviet Union, stretching from July 1942 to February 1943. This battle is often cited as one of the bloodiest in history, with casualties estimated in the millions. The Soviet Union's eventual victory marked a significant turning point, halting the Nazi advance into Eastern Europe and revitalizing Soviet morale. Moving to the Pacific Theater, the Battle of Midway in June 1942 stands out as a critical moment. This was where the United States Navy, utilizing breakthroughs in code-breaking and aviation technology, decisively defeated an attacking fleet of the Imperial Japanese Navy. Midway was pivotal. It shifted the balance of naval power in the Pacific, allowing the U.S. to take a more offensive role in subsequent battles. Then there's the iconic D-Day, officially known as the Normandy landings, on June 6, 1944. This massive operation marked the beginning of the end for Nazi Germany. Over 150,000 Allied troops landed on the beaches of Normandy in a display of unprecedented coordination of air, land, and sea power. The successful landings paved the way for the liberation of Western Europe from Nazi control. These battles were influenced heavily by evolving military strategies and technologies. For instance, Stalingrad showcased the ruthless effectiveness of urban warfare and the critical importance of winter warfare readiness. Midway highlighted the impact of intelligence and air superiority. Normandy demonstrated the power of combined arms tactics and logistical planning on a scale never before seen. The impact of these battles went beyond the immediate military outcomes. They shifted the momentum of the war significantly, inflicting irreparable blows to the Axis powers and boosting the Allies' confidence and resolve. These battles not only changed territories, but also the morale and strategies of the involved powers. Amidst the chaos of war, humanity faced its darkest hours. The Holocaust remains one of the most horrifying chapters of World War II, a systematic genocide orchestrated by Nazi Germany that aimed to exterminate all Jews, along with other groups deemed undesirable. Under the regime of Adolf Hitler, the Nazis implemented the final solution, a chilling plan to eradicate Jewish people. Concentration camps such as Auschwitz became infamous for their brutal efficiency in mass murder. Here in these camps, millions of Jews, along with Romani people, disabled individuals and others, were subjected to unimaginable atrocities, including gas chambers, forced labor, and medical experiments. But the horrors of this era were not confined to Europe alone. In Asia, the Japanese Imperial Army committed numerous war crimes against the peoples of China, Korea, and Southeast Asia. The rape of Nanking is one such atrocity where tens of thousands of civilians were brutally murdered and women were subjected to horrific sexual violence. Other parts of Europe also witnessed severe war crimes. In the Soviet Union, the siege of Leningrad led to the deaths of over 1 million civilians from starvation, bombardment, and cold. The scorched earth tactics used by retreating armies left a trail of destruction and suffering that deeply scarred the continent. The war was not just a battle over land and power, but also a stark display of humanity's capacity for cruelty. Through understanding these dark times, we confront the depths of human depravity and the urgent necessity of remembrance and education to prevent such atrocities in the future. The reach of World War II was truly global, affecting lives on every continent. From the sands of North Africa to the islands of the Pacific, the war was not confined to the European heartland, but spanned across the globe. In Africa, Allied forces battled the Axis powers in a series of campaigns that were as much about controlling strategic locations as they were about depleting the enemy's resources. Meanwhile, in the Pacific, a different kind of war unfolded. It was marked by island-hopping campaigns, naval battles, and aerial assaults, culminating in a fierce struggle that reached as far as the doorsteps of Japan. But the impact of the war was not only felt on battlefields. Across the world, civilian populations bore the brunt of economic and social upheaval. In Europe, cities were bombed, economies were shattered, and daily life was fraught with scarcity and fear. In Asia, the war disrupted traditional livelihoods, leading to widespread famine and suffering. Amidst this global turmoil, the roles within societies began to shift. Women, in unprecedented numbers, stepped into roles previously held by men who had gone to fight. They worked in factories, served in auxiliary military roles, and played a crucial part in keeping the home front running. Similarly, minority groups found new opportunities, but also faced severe challenges and discrimination, which highlighted existing societal rifts. As the war concluded, the landscape of entire nations had altered dramatically. Economies were devastated, political maps were redrawn, and social orders were redefined. World War II reshaped societies worldwide, leaving a lasting impact on both the victors and the vanquished. As the guns fell silent, a new world order emerged from the ashes. In the immediate aftermath of World War II, the global landscape was drastically altered, setting the stage for a period of intense restructuring and accountability. The Nuremberg trials became one of the first symbols of this new era. Conducted in the devastated remains of Germany, these trials marked a seminal moment in international law. High-ranking Nazi officials were brought before the world's gaze, held accountable for crimes against humanity, war crimes, and the genocide that had swept across Europe. This was not just about retribution, but also about setting a precedent, that such atrocities would never again go unpunished. Simultaneously, the seeds for future international cooperation were sown with the establishment of the United Nations in October 1945. Born out of the failures of the League of Nations, the United Nations aimed to prevent future conflicts and foster a spirit of collective security and peace. It was a beacon of hope in a world weary of war, symbolizing a commitment to dialogue over destruction. However, peace was a delicate veneer. The end of World War II also signaled the start of the Cold War. Ideological differences between the United States and the Soviet Union rapidly escalated, leading to the division of Germany into East and West. This division was a physical manifestation of the Iron Curtain that descended across Europe, delineating the West from the Communist East. The nuclear arms race began, with both superpowers amassing weapons that could annihilate humanity, casting a long shadow over global peace. Moreover, the war had triggered a wave of decolonization movements. Nations in Asia and Africa, inspired by the promise of self-determination and weakened colonial powers, began to push for independence. The map of the world was redrawn as new nations emerged, forever changing the international landscape. Though World War II ended in 1945, its echoes are felt in the geopolitical and social structures of today. The war not only reshaped borders and societies, but also fundamentally transformed how nations interact, highlighting the intricate web of international relations that continues to influence global affairs. Why did World War II happen? The reasons are as complex as the conflict itself. As we journey through the labyrinth of the past, we see the shadows of fascism stretching across nations, the failure of appeasement whispering its cautionary tale, and the chilling winds of economic hardship and nationalistic fervor that fanned the flames of conflict. Each of these elements, intertwined, set the stage for a global upheaval. Reflecting on World War II, it becomes evident that this was not just a series of battles, it was a dramatic clash of ideologies, economies, and national identities. The rise of totalitarian regimes under leaders like Hitler, Mussolini, and others was a stark reminder of what can happen when power is unchecked and grievances are manipulated for aggressive expansion. Today, as we glance back at the devastation and the transformative outcomes of the war, it's imperative to draw parallels to our current global affairs. The echoes of the past resonate, reminding us of the importance of vigilance, diplomacy, and international cooperation. Understanding World War II is not just about knowing history, but learning from it to foster a more peaceful future.